Hi, everyone. Welcome to Myth Busting Mondays, and welcome back from your Thanksgiving holiday.
Yes, if you're in the United States, we trust you had a lovely holiday weekend, but maybe not. So that's why we're doing today's topic. Does holiday time equal family time? Hmm. Does it have to?
Does it have to? Let's
Hmm.
find out.
Let's find out. So, we don't know what you did over the holiday weekend, but we watched some movies. And since we pretty much watched all of Netflix already, um, we decided to look for some holiday cheer. And we ended up watching a comedy, which this is not an endorsement of.
No, this is not an
It is,
endorsement of this movie.
yeah.
It's not a particularly great movie. Yeah.
But we watched it. So there's a movie called The Four Christmases that stars Reese Witherspoon and
Vince Vaughn.
Vince Vaughn. That's right. So basically, this is a couple that's been dating for over 3 years, and every year they lie to their families
Yep.
and escape and go on a trip somewhere. Except this particular year that the movie takes place, and they have to go to his mom, his dad, her mom, and her dad. So four Christmases, all on Christmas Day.
Yep.
And it got us thinking about how holiday time can be pretty triggering
Yeah. Pretty
for a lot of
difficult.
reasons,
Pretty
you know?
difficult with your family, right? Now, certainly all families, well, yeah, I'll say all families have that one, crazy uncle or cousin or brother-in-law, right, who tends to maybe speak their mind
I,
or
I don't particularly like the word crazy in your description, so I'm going to
sure.
say, if you're in a situation where you have that one odd relative that you want to make sure you sit away from, that's pretty easy to negotiate. But what we're talking about is a little bit more complex, right? Because the holiday season can just trigger a lot of different things. And we don't want to make any assumptions about your particular situation. We do know that there is no one size fits all about how to deal with family and holidays. And we just want to give you some ingredients so you can make your own recipe to feel good through the holiday season.
Exactly. So, if the holidays are triggering, if you do have, a family environment in which you don't feel like you can be yourself, you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel safe, it's very triggering, you have toxic people in your family, then this really is for you.
Yeah. So we're going to say this. Does holiday time have to equal family time?
No,
No, it's on a case by case basis.
exactly.
If you grew up in a loving family and you all, get together and do stuff together and it feels supportive and joyful, power to you. We'd like to hear from you. Tell us how that growing up like that worked out for you. And I mean, look, families come in all different ways, but what we do know from working with our clients is every family has a family dynamic. And so, Matthew and I, we for many years we used to go back for Christmas and see
Yeah.
his family and spend the holiday with his family. His parents would host a Christmas Eve party that was like extended family and friends and this huge shindig every single year for
Mm-hmm.
what, like decades?
Oh, 50 years at least.
Yeah, and so at the end of the night, when all everybody's left, Matthew's immediate family, and you got to remember this guy's the youngest of five, so it's a pretty big family, plus their spouses, right, and their kids. So the close family is still a pretty large group. And one of the things that we would notice, because Matthew's family shows love by poking fun,
Yeah, and
poke, poke, poke,
teasing
and teasing, and all of that.
and their little sarcastic comments. So what we noticed was a particular dynamic where one person would get singled out and would sort of become the target that year. Now, all of us have our different strategies. I'm particularly good at not being the target, right?
Well, but it's
Staying
your
low key
strategy
and
for
staying
being
out of the
not the
way.
target. Yeah.
Exactly.
Matthew's strategy for not becoming the target is to become invisible. Nobody's home. But one of the things that we noticed, because we discuss this kind of stuff, right? I don't know that anybody else goes to their family get together and then
I'm sure they
plays
do.
armchair psychologist, right, about everybody. But one of the things we notice is there's a particular person, and I don't know who's going to see this, so I'm just going to, I'm not naming names, but I'm saying there's a particular person in Matthew's family who should become genderless and nameless in this description. But that particular person, we found that the strategy this person would use for not becoming the target was to choose the target.
Yeah.
So I gave it away. She, he, she, that person.
Yeah.
I did it. That particular person would select the target and start teasing and making fun of that person when it was just the immediate family. And that was her insurance for never becoming the target. See what was going on there? That particular person had that strategy. Oh, if I pick the target, then I won't become the target.
Right.
I don't know if it was because I was the last to come on board. I don't know that I ever became the target.
I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe because I was the last to sort of join the group, marrying the youngest of the bunch.
There's usually 2 or 3 people. One of them usually end up being the target because they tend to step into the trap and become the target.
Yeah. So there you go. So, and you got to remember, this is the end of the night after a party and drinking and all of that good stuff. And so some decorum may have, the sheen may have worn off any sort of decorum or editing button, right? So every family dynamic is a little bit different. And I will say the strategy in my family, the role I play in my family is I become the scapegoat for pretty much anything and everything. And when I started spending less and less time with particular family members, I would always wonder, I wonder now that I'm not around, I wonder who they're blaming for all their problems, right? So my strategy is, for the most part, to withdraw completely from the relationship, right? If I feel that I'm not being treated fairly, my strategy, my self-protection kind of kicks in, and so I withdraw. And from that place, I have found that sometimes people circle back. I've had people circle back to me after a break and say, hey, I really miss you. I screwed up. I owe you an apology. And that is something that I think is really sort of special when somebody is able to come around. So we're just giving you some options. We're sure that your family dynamic, you could share, a lot of different stuff. And we're not here to gossip. We're actually here to give helpful tips. So does holiday time have to equal family time? No. If you enjoy spending time with your family and you have a tradition of spending time with your family, those are 2 completely different things. So our tradition of going back to see Matthew's family every year changed several years ago.
Yeah.
And
used to be over the Christmas holiday, and traveling over the Christmas holiday just became too difficult. And besides, it's so cold there, we'd rather stay where it's warm. And now we travel over a different holiday. We usually travel over Labor Day and sometimes in the spring as well. So it's about, for us finding the right times that work with us, but also work with everybody else, because we know on certain holidays my family's getting together anyway. So the first thing is to have a strategy, to have a plan for your holidays. You want to be able to, if you're not going to participate with your family, you want to be able to have a good excuse that you can use that's not going to raise a lot of, eyebrows. It's not going to have a lot of questions attached to it that makes people dig in deeper, and you just have to make up some big elaborate lie, which is no fun at all. You just need to set a clear boundary, and say, I'm doing this for myself this year, right? Make it an I language instead of making it about them. Make it about you and what you need.
Yeah.
Oftentimes there are family members who will attempt to guilt you into coming because, well, all the other family is there and it's not being there. And of course, if being there is just not going to be good for you, then you don't have to accept the gift of guilt. That's what I love about guilt. It's like guilt is a gift that people try to give you. Here, do you want to take this guilt? Right? And you can always refuse the guilt. You don't have to accept that gift.
No.
It's not meant for you. It's something they're doing for themselves, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
You don't have to accept it. Now, if you have that one odd person, that's an easy one. Just, have a way out, right? So if that person comes to talk to you, oh, I'm going to get another glass of wine, or oh, I'm going to go back to the buffet, or oh, I'm going to go help in the kitchen, or oh,
I have to use the restroom.
Yeah, that's a good one too, right? So lots of ways to get out of a singular conversation if somebody has sort of, moved you over there. And I say, setting a clear boundary is also an excellent strategy. There's also a great strategy if you are the kind of person who wants to sort of call people on their stuff, and not, this is not for the faint of heart, but I know I was having a conversation with a particular family member, and that person started telling me how I think. Well, you know what you think, Orna, blah blah. And at that point I literally interrupted this person and I said, I'm sorry, I'm happy to have a conversation with you, but you don't get to tell me how I think. So I'm going to now end the conversation. And I just simply walked away, and that was that. And what was interesting is that particular trip, we saw that person again. And I think it was 2 days later. And I was surprised because that person, it was like nothing had happened. Just was like, hey, Orna, how are you? Whatever. And everything was quote unquote normal. So sometimes I think people get a little uneasy when they set a boundary. They're worried about how the other person's going to respond. So one of the things we'd like to say to you is this, because I think this is really important. Your communication and the success of your communication is always measured by your ability to be authentic. It is never measured by how the other person responds to you. So if you remember this one rule through the holiday season, you're going to find a lot more joy interacting with difficult people, because a lot of difficult people, like Matthew was saying, they want to either dump their, guilt on you or manipulate you to do or say something that you don't want to say or do. And what's beautiful about this particular life is you have 100% control over everything you feel, you think, and you do, right? You can choose not to do something, you can choose to do something, and you get to choose your communication. So when you master communication and you're able to set a clear boundary, like Matthew was saying earlier, you want to use the I language. There's some great books. We'll put a link to Marshall Rosenberg's Nonviolent Communication. He has several great books. We'll put the main one, the big one for him. We'll put the link below if you want to look at some more nonviolent communication templates. We definitely work with our clients around this. We've sort of, we think, sort of improved on that basic template from Marshall Rosenberg. It works well through dating and relationships and that kind of stuff. It's not specific to every single conversation, but it's a good place to start. And so setting that clear boundary, like you'll notice when what I said to that person was, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to end the conversation now. I'm not okay with you telling me how I think, right? So, or whatever it was that I exactly said, I don't remember, but it really turned me off. Like the minute I heard the words, you know what you think, Orna? I was like, whoa, that kind of communication doesn't work for me coming from another person. If I'm going to share how I think or feel about something, I'll share about it, but somebody else doesn't get to tell me how I am or how I feel or what I think. So when you own your stuff, in a sense, you have to be in that situation of sort of letting the chips fall where they may, because that other person has total control over how they do respond to you, and you're in that space of knowing you have zero control over how that other person will respond to you, even when you're doing your best to just be authentic and be kind. And I wore a t-shirt most of the weekend, but one day over the weekend that says "Be kind." I purposely got it for the holiday time. And it has "Be kind" written in gold, shiny, sparkly letters, and I just really liked it. I like walking around in the world if I'm not out that much, but if I'm going to the grocery store or whatever, it's just kind of a nice reminder, right, to be kind. So you always want to be kind with your communication, and that's why we're stressing the use of the I first, right?
Yeah.
I did use a you for context, right? And so that's okay. It's always better if you can avoid using the you word, but you never want to start with a you. That's like pointing a finger at somebody, and you know what they say, if you're pointing your finger at somebody, you've got three other fingers, because the thumb's not. 3 fingers pointing back at you.
Yeah.
So when one finger at the other person, you got 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. You don't want to do that.
No. The thing about authenticity, right, about sharing how you feel and what's going on with you, is that's a great tool for creating connection. And there may be some people in your life who aren't safe people for you to be creating connection with, because they're not going to take your feeling statement in a way that sounds like you're taking responsibility for your feelings, right? They'll take your feeling statement as an attack, or maybe they'll argue with you about how you're feeling, or all these other things that are just not helpful. So if there's people that are not available for those kinds of conversations, then you can just say, excuse me, and just walk away, right? You really don't have to give a reason. You don't have to say anything. You can just excuse yourself and move on, right? It's not your responsibility to explain all your behavior or to make something up or any of that. It's just about you taking care of yourself is what we're really talking about. If you have family members that maybe, you don't feel so comfortable around, you don't feel so safe around.
So the key really going into the holiday season here is have a plan. Have a plan for yourself. Decide what you're going to do for yourself. And the other thing, I'm just going to circle back to the movie really quick because you don't need some big elaborate lie, excuse, blah, 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 if you're bowing out at family events. In the movie, one of the things that's kind of funny at the beginning is that they would say they're doing charity work in some place far off in the world, building houses or inoculating children for viruses, or I don't know. It was just very sort of silly. And when they did end up going to one of those, one of the 4 Christmases at the family's house, that particular parent said, basically outed them, saying that they knew they were always lying about it and not coming over. So you don't have to make it a lie. You can literally just say, oh, I'm doing this for me this year. There was a year I did a 10-day silent retreat, and I did that over Christmas and New Year's. It spanned both. So it was a 10-day, Vipassana was the only time I had a job back then, and so it was the only time I could ever have that time off. And so I didn't talk to anybody because I was doing a silent retreat for 10 days up in Joshua Tree here in the high desert. And so you can always say you're doing something for yourself. When I told people I was going to go do a 10-day silent retreat, after people would say, you're not going to talk for 10 days. After that landed, some people circled back and said, wait, what's this thing that you're doing? And we got to have a deeper conversation about it.
Yeah. So if you're single and you're heading back for the holidays to see family, or you're seeing family over the holidays and you're going to get those questions, give yourself a plan for that conversation as well. Maybe just say, I'm working on a program right now, and leave it at that. Or maybe, maybe say, it's not appropriate for you to ask me about that. That's my business, right? There's a lot of things you can say, but come up with a plan, come up with a simple, clear response that isn't something that really can be debated.
Yeah, my favorite response, because I was single for so long, and the worst for me was being at a wedding without any sign of a relationship, right? And people always ask, what do you do? And are you blah, blah, and you meet people, or you see family or whatever. And so that used to stir up a lot of stuff for me. So I've got a lot of things that will literally shut that conversation down. So if somebody in your family or a friend of the family or whatever that you're going to see over the holidays starts harping on your single status for whatever reason, here's a few great responses. You can always say, oh, I'm having so much fun dating. I'm really not even thinking about picking one to settle down with, right? Like, that's a great one, right? And even if it's a little bit of a fib, right? Even if it's a little white lie, it's like you taking really good care of yourself to say, oh my God, I'm having so much fun dating. And you want the laugh in there, right? Like, I'm having so much fun dating right now. I just can't imagine picking one person to settle down with. I'm just having so much fun. And then just keep walking, through the party, just move along, right? So that's a good one. You can always say, oh gosh, it's been such an interesting year, with COVID. It's the furthest thing from my mind right now. And move along, right? It's the furthest thing from my mind right now.
And I just want to say, we're actually missing out on the biggest reason why you can excuse yourself from family this holiday.
Well, we're not. I just said it.
Well, yeah, but we didn't say it for that reason, right? So if your family are not people that you are seeing on a daily basis, right, and you don't want to risk anything, you can always just say, hey, it's COVID, it's all happening, I'm staying home.
Yeah, you don't have to travel if you don't want to. The best excuse, we're gonna say, right, is right there in front of our faces, right? We're in California, so we have new quarantine rules.
They're actually
for the next
talking
3
about
weeks.
going into lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah, we have starting today in LA County. Yeah, starting today, November 30th. Right, where have you been?
Not on the news today. Apparently.
Right. So no, it came out over the weekend. So yeah. So look, we don't want to debate whatever, but there's, a lot of people have died, and a lot of people have gotten very sick, and still struggling with symptoms. So, we just want you to be safe, be careful. But it's a great reason to say you don't want to go anywhere. As a matter of fact, we had a very low key Thanksgiving, just the two of us, enough food for 12, of course. But we had some great leftovers. I made a plate for somebody who came by and was having Thanksgiving all by himself, who's like a family member to me, to us. And so shared some of our bounty the next day on Friday. So you can really decide what feels right for you, but having a plan going into any situation is always your best bet. So be prepared. Be prepared for the questions if that's where you tend to get tripped up. Be prepared to set a boundary. Be prepared to communicate clearly. Be prepared to just share your truth, to be your authentic self. Your family members that love you will be flexible with you. If it's your first time setting a boundary with somebody, you might be surprised. You might be surprised to discover what that other person is capable of. They might surprise you. The other thing that I want to say is maybe you're listening to us right now and you're in a partnership, right? Maybe you're coupled up for this holiday season and you're navigating that. So if you're with a partner and you're going to a family event, either family, you want to just make sure that you have a strategy for departing if one of the two of you decides you want to go, right? And I would say, it's important that specific request is honored. If one of the two of you wants to depart, that there isn't an argument about departing. That has to be the first agreement between the two of you, right? So if Matthew and I, if we're visiting family or whatever, and I'm like, hey, I really want to go. He's not like, oh, wait, I really want to stick around for the pie, or whatever, right? It's like, we'll get you pie, but we got to go, right? So whatever it is that you're willing to stick around for, that's the one place where you want to ask your partner to just be supportive. So if you want to go, if your partner wants to go, whoever decides they want to depart, you have a strategy for getting out the door, and that there isn't an argument about, wait, I wanted to hang around for X, Y, or Z, right? So make sure you're on the same page with your partner. This is the opportunity to have those discussions about family. One of the things we want to say about coupling up with somebody is it's really great to be able to have strategies where you have a whole other person. I got to relate to my family in a whole new way because I always knew that Matthew would be my ally. And it was one of the most important things for me in being around my family was knowing that Matthew was always going to have my back no matter what was going on. So we want to give you so many blessings this holiday season. Yeah. We want to let you know it's a great time to be you, because it's always a great time to be you. So we know there's a lot of stressors, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of things going on in life to be worried about. But ultimately, worry is just picturing a future that you do not like. And it's just as easy to picture a future that you do. So spend some time taking care of yourself, envisioning what that holiday event is going to look like. If you plan for it to be joyful, you know what your exit strategies are, you know what those pesky questions, answers are going to be, those things that tend to trigger you. And most importantly, we just want to say, if you end up getting triggered this holiday season, please be kind and loving and compassionate with yourself most of all, because every human being is going to get triggered. It's unrealistic to think that you're never going to be triggered. There isn't something wrong with you that you get triggered. So we're here to tell you, welcome to the human race, okay?
Exactly.
So be okay with your humanness. If you end up getting triggered, just be kind and compassionate with yourself. And maybe you offer somebody an apology the next day or two later and say, oh, I owe you an apology. I'm sorry I was triggered. And clean up if there was a mess. But never beat yourself up for getting triggered. That's just part of being human.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us. We're glad to be back here with you after the holiday break. We're going to be back on Thursday at this time for Thriving on Thursday. And everybody have a great evening.
Have a great evening. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.